Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I have the chain rule of differentiation in the topic of calculus. So if I define two functions, two real valued functions such that f of x and g of x, such that their domains and codomains are the set of real numbers, then I would like to find the first derivative of f of g of x. Uh, that comes from the chain rule. So we'll denote first the first derivative of f of x as f prime x, and the first derivative of g of x, the other function, as g prime x. And we should also observe that x will always belong to a real number because the domains of both functions are real numbers. It's not necessary to have real numbers to apply chain rule, but we'll restrict to that for now. And the functional values will also belong to real numbers because the codomains of the functions are also real numbers. And if I define the chain rule states that the first derivative of f of g of x is equal to f primed g of x multiplied by g primed x. What are the primes? The primes are just the first derivatives of f and g, but interesting to note that this is f primed g of x, not f primed x, and this is just g primed x. And we can extend this further actually. If you have f of g of h of x, then you get three terms like this. Yeah, we can see that later, but right now I'm gonna take an example. Let's say find the first derivative of sine squared x, sorry, sine of x squared, using the chain rule of differentiation. Now how can I use that rule directly here? I can define my f of g of x as sine x squared, and it's easy to see that we're only dealing with real numbers here. And if I do that, like I'm doing this to apply the chain rule directly, where if I'm defining like this, here my fx is actually sine x, and gx is x squared. So when I do f of gx squared, basically I'm saying f of x squared, so that is sine of x squared. That's how I get here. So if I need to apply the chain rule directly, I'm gonna write it down same as what I wrote here. So first derivative of f of g of x gives me f primed gx multiplied by g primed x. Now I don't know the primes yet, but I can figure out the primes because I have the original functions. So if f x is sine x, we know that the first derivative will be cos x, and if g of x is x squared, then the first derivative of g of x, g prime x, would be 2x. Pretty straightforward there, but how am I going to use this in the chain rule? I can substitute it here. F prime of x was cos x, so f primed of g of x, however, would be cos of g of x, and g primed x would be 2x directly. Interesting. I still have a g of x, so I would need to replace here the original x squared, so I get something like squared 2x. This step can be jumped, it could have been jumped, we could have skipped this, we could have directly written this, and that's basically the shortcut. So what we say here is, when you look at this expression, just forget about this x squared, just write down the first derivative of sine of whatever is there, that's cos of whatever was there here, and then multiply it with the derivative of x squared, and then if x squared can be expressed as another function, the derivative of that function, and this goes on like a chain, and hence it's called the chain rule. Thank you so much for watching this video. I would try to cover some important problems on this, and the domains and codomains I can try to explain in another video. I didn't explain that of the function. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks.